Lots to come this morning. John Maguire is at Swanage Station. Why? He's going to wave off this beaut, the Flying Scotsman, later with a very special guest. Morning, John.
Yeah, morning, Naga. The Flying Scotsman. Is there a more famous train in the world? Has there ever been a more famous engine than this? I would argue not. Once famously travelled at more than 100 miles an hour, now restricted to 75 miles an hour these days. And in fact, on the Swanage Railway, which is a heritage railway, it'll only do something like 20. I'm just going to come up onto the footplate here. This is one of those places, you know, as a kid where you always dreamt of sitting in the driver's seat on the Flying Scotsman. Jack is just going to put a bit of coal into the firebox for us. As you say, we are going to later on meet and talk to the daughter of Alan Pegler, the man who saved Flying Scotsman from the scrapyard back in the 60s when steam, of course, went over to diesel. That's all after the news, travel and weather, wherever you're watching breakfast this morning.
Time now 7:52, bit of a treat if you like steam trains this morning. Have a look at this picture here. You can step on board the Flying Scotsman this morning. John Maguire is there for us this morning and we can see it's glowing bright. They're going to get going shortly. Morning to you, John.
Yeah, morning, Charlie. On board the Flying Scotsman, as you say. I'm just going to put a bit of coal, or sometimes they call it rock. Bad job? Good job? Don't know. Anyway, let's put that to one side. Joined by Annie Clark this morning from Swanage Railway. Morning, Annie, to you. They're going to let you drive it, aren't they, under close supervision. The engine belongs to the National Rail Museum up in York, and the guys are here with it. But you're going to get to go and actually drive the Flying Scotsman. Many, many childhood dreams. Looking forward to it?
Yeah. It's always interesting to drive a different engine because they are all different and they all work in a different way. So it's always a learning curve, and learning new things is always fun.
Yeah, and they've got foibles, but I mean, you're not going to get a chance to drive this at full speed. But when it used to do 100 miles an hour, didn't it? And apparently it absolutely drives like a proper racing machine. Yeah,
they were very fast, and they were designed to go for nice long distances. So you've got nice soft cushioned seats, unlike quite a lot of our other engines where they were much older and their designs are much more rudimentary. So this is the luxury end, the racing car end of steam engines.
Yeah, and to drive it, you would have had to put your head out of the window, presumably. Again, back in the day, that would have been extraordinary.
It would be like this. So it would have been quite a difficult thing to do, and you will see photographs of people with smuts in their eyes. You'll see photographs of people with goggles on or glasses, because as you can see with the glass here, you've not got a lot of vision otherwise now.
Yeah, absolutely. Annie, thanks very much. All the very best when you're driving it. We are just going to show you what the Flying Scotsman looks like from the outside while we climb down off the footplate. It really is an absolutely magnificent machine. Built in 1923 in Doncaster, so almost 100 years old she is now, and I'm reliably informed by Jack from who looks after, who's up there cleaning her at the moment actually, that you do refer to steam engines as female, even though it's called the Flying Scotsman, of course. And Peter Frost is with us. Peter, we've got some old footage of you with long hair from back in the 80s. I don't know whether you remember actually when that was filmed, but that was along the Swanage Railway somewhere.
Yeah, the 80s are a long time ago now. Yeah, 45 years I've been involved with the Swanage Railway, and it's been a long journey and very satisfying. You've got a situation here now today where we got Flying Scotsman. Not for the first time. We had her back in 94 and came down here for a short spell, and what a lovely engine, you know, it's magnificent. And if you go to any pub quiz and anybody asks a question, what's the name of a steam engine, you're going to get the Flying Scotsman, aren't you?
It really is the most famous steam engine ever.
Absolutely.
Why do people love it? Why does it draw the crowds, do you think?
It's iconic. It was the first passenger locomotive to do 100 miles an hour, and the history that it's got with the public, and now it's back in public ownership. People know the engine, they love the engine. When they've got a model train set, everybody wants to have a Flying Scotsman on their model layout, don't they?
That's the one. All right, Peter, thanks very much indeed. Really good to talk to you this morning. Special treat for you later on in breakfast. The Flying Scotsman was saved from the scrap heap back in 1963 by a man called Alan Pegler. His daughter will be here to tell us about her special family link to the Scotsman, what memories she has as a little girl from riding on it in North America as well. It's going to be absolutely fascinating to talk to her, so don't miss that. Coming up later on in breakfast, all after the news, travel and weather, where you are this morning.
A real treat for you if you're a fan of steam trains this morning, talking about the Flying Scotsman, and I think we can go affectionately, John, I'm going to call you the Fat Controller this morning because you're in charge of things down there and what we're going to see.
I don't know if he's going to take that with affection. Yeah, you're laughing now, but I know there are plots are thickening underneath that smile. Morning, John.
How could you possibly take offence to being called fat? Anyway, here we are at Swanage Railway, a very special day for lots of different reasons. The Flying Scotsman is here just a little bit further down in the sidings. Should be able to see it with our camera just above there. And where I'm standing on the platform, I'm right next to an observation carriage, an observation car, car 14, Devon Bell, first built back in the 20s. The idea being that it would take passengers down to the Devonshire countryside, back as it used to be called in that day, with the great big windows here. It was then taken over to the States by Alan Pegler, the man who rescued the Flying Scotsman from the scrapyard, and it was towed along behind across the American Rockies as an exposition, really, advertising British products. So we're just going to bring you on board. We're going to squeeze our way through here. So as I say, this is where first class passengers would have gone, you know, all those years ago, and certainly where people would have been in the States. Morning all to the staff here. Morning. Oh, thank you very much indeed. Don't mind if I do. I am watching my figure, as Charlie noticed, but I think we'll be okay. And we're going to come through and introduce you to Penny. Penny, good morning. How are you? Daughter of Alan Pegler. Wow, so we are reuniting these two vehicles, the train and this carriage, for the first time since 1972. Yes. You've been given the honour of waving them off. What was it like as a young girl when your dad came home and said, guess what, I've just bought a great big steam train?
Yes, I was 9 years old and he came up to my bedroom, in fact, to read me a story, and he said, today I bought a steam engine and we are going to have her painted bright green, apple green, and he explained that he'd bought her because she was going to be scrapped, and she was the last engine of her type, the A3, and there really must be one of these left in England. It must be left. It's the only one in the world. And so he came up with this wonderful idea of buying her
and taking her over to the States. And you remember sitting in this carriage, travelling through the Rockies. What was it like? What do you remember from those days?
Yes, that was after many adventures in England, of course, and going across the Rocky Mountains. I went on the last part of the trip, which was all the way from Montreal and Toronto and all the way across the Rocky Mountains down to San Francisco. That was unbelievable, an amazing journey. I travelled in this observation car, looking at the wonderful scenery, going down Feather Canyon. It was absolutely fantastic. We had a small crew by then because the money was getting short, and we were no longer in the luxury hotels as they had been in the beginning. I was at school then, so I didn't see all that. But the last bit, we were often in sleeping bags on the train, and it was wonderful memories.
And it's an amazing legacy, isn't it, for your father, that the Flying Scotsman is still it's still in use today, still travels the country, and always draws crowds. Why do you think it still captures people's imagination?
Well, it's wonderful that she came back. Bill McAlpine, of course, rescued her once my father was in difficulty in San Francisco, brought her back. And so now, again, people are able to enjoy her, there are so many crowds, so many happy faces, that for me, it was just all worth it. And my father will be smiling from up there, just seeing how happy everybody is when they are around this engine. I think everybody has their own story with Scotsman. Everyone has a memory of doing something. They probably remember when they saw it for the first time, and it is everybody's engine, and now that she's looked after at the National Railway Museum, that's wonderful as well. So so it's worked out so well. you know, and so I'm a very happy person because it's as it's my father's legacy with this and his love of engines and the Festiniog as well. So it's wonderful. And the Festiniog, which was before, 10 years before, he bought with friends the Festiniog and had that restored, and now it's a major attraction. All going well. All going well.
Thank you so much indeed. All the very best, waving off Flying Scotsman and this carriage later. It's been a real privilege to be here this morning. Hope you've enjoyed having a look around, getting up on the footplate, seeing the firebox, getting a good idea of what must be the most famous train ever is still like, even at the grand old age of something like 96, 97 years old. Anyway, from here, from Swanage and Dorset, back to you, Naga, and the other bloke.
The daughter of the man who saved the Flying Scotsman from the scrapyard has waved off the world-famous locomotive on its latest adventure. For the next 3 weeks, it will pull passengers along the scenic Swanage Railway. Our correspondent John Maguire joined hundreds of steam enthusiasts in Dorset this morning.
Even at the grand old age of 96, the Flying Scotsman still draws a crowd.
This week, all my pupils know now that the Flying Scotsman is the most famous loco in Britain.
We used to build good stuff in Doncaster.
Just because it's so special, isn't it? It's just so special. It's Pete's birthday today, so it's his special treat for his birthday.
I lived on the East Coast and saw the Flying Scotsman regularly coming down through Essendine. We're close to where it broke the world record.
The Flying Scotsman is now owned by the National Railway Museum in York and spends the summer travelling the country, kept running by a team of dedicated engineers.
It's like having a 150-ton toddler. You know, they have moods, and you just have to deal with them. You know, that's part and parcel of working with a steam locomotive. They are machines, but they have personality. So
temperamental the Flying Scotsman may be, and although these days the speed limit for steam is 75 miles per hour, in her heyday she travelled between London and Scotland at more than 100. And today she's reunited with Car 14, the Devon Belle, an observation carriage that she hasn't towed since 1972.
Wave it hard.
And waving the two off at Swanage Railway was the daughter of Alan Pegler, the man who saved the famous engine from the scrapyard in 1963. She has fond memories of the locomotive travelling across America to promote British businesses.
I haven't seen this carriage since we were in the States, and I crossed North America and down to San Francisco, across the Rocky Mountains in this carriage, looking at the beautiful scenery, Feather Canyon, the wonderful Rockies. So I have very, very many happy memories travelling in this.
The Concorde of the steam age, and today as iconic and popular as ever. John Maguire, BBC News, Dorset.